All right, good morning, all. So this is kind of the inaugural video here. I wanted to do a video series on a lot of the activity I got going on around the house. So I think I'm going to chop a lot of these up into multiple, I guess, phases or, video series, I guess. Because there's a lot going on here, and obviously I can't cover it all in one video, but I think if I break it up logically, then working on certain things, then that might be a little more interesting, I think, for people doing similar work as what's going on out here. But anyways, I wanted to give kind of a context here for like the whole thing. So like this is the start of the start, even though I've been doing a lot of the work before I actually started filming any of this. I thought I would just do the background here. So we're out here in beautiful Georgia. I'm actually a California boy, but I am a transplant here to Georgia. Took a job a few years back out here. Just love the quality of life out here, and got a decent sized property compared to what you get in Southern California, where you basically live on top of your neighbor. Here it's a little more rural, open, which I really like. So we got a couple acres here that we're working with. And you can see there's a lot of, materials and equipment, things like that. House didn't certainly look this way when we bought it. We probably wouldn't have bought it, but we're improving things over time. So we bought this house a few years ago. Market was just right. Interest rates, perfect. The veteran got a, veteran loan. So that really helped in terms of down payment, things like that. And we shopped around for probably 2 years while we were out here until we found something we could both, really live with. So it's kind of a ranch style farmhouse, I guess you could say. And but it's built in the 80s, and it's on a crawl space foundation. Needs a lot of work on the interior, even though they kind of remodeled it before we bought it. Yeah, there's just a lot going on there that still needs a lot of work. So what we thought we'd do is we would focus on the outside first, um, and then work our way inside. Now, so let me give you a lay of the land here. You probably see these stakes right here. So we wanted to build the fence line, redo the fence line. And, but to know where to put the fence, we had to know where the property lines were. And we didn't have access to a previous survey to know where the markers were. So, and then I wanted to build a garage in this area right here. So to do all that, needed a survey. Pretty expensive. Hopefully only have to do that once. But now we know where things are at, right? We know where the property line is. So these stakes right here are next to the beer fence. And the beer fence is what happens when you drink a lot of beer and decide this is where the fence should go. And we're about, on that corner down there, about 12 feet off. So I guess that's about a 12 pack, right? So they kind of, maybe they started down here, got the fence right, pretty close to the fence, the actual property line. That was maybe the first beer. Second stake, probably the second beer. We're getting over here to the third stake on the property line next to the fence, and that's maybe the third or fourth beer. And you can see things kind of progress from there. Kind of a bummer because we knew we were off a little bit. We did not know we were off this far. And to be quite honest with you, had we known that going into this property, we probably would have changed our mind. It's just one of those things, it is what it is. So anyways, so this is, a cable for our DSL. We don't have fiber here. And we put irrigation in, and we caught the cable, so had to put new cable. Pretty common thing. They don't bury these things too deep, so I mean literally you hit the first 2 inches with the shovel and boom, you end up finding your AT&T cable. Anyways, so we planted this orchard. This wasn't here before. We were a little farther over, but because now that's the new property line where the orange stake is, we had to move things over. So kind of a pain in the rear, having to redo that. But that's what it is. So I'm just going to kind of walk the property line with you here and kind of explain some of the things that were going on. You see this trench right here? This is where we were going to put the irrigation, because we thought, okay, if we stay a couple feet away from the fence, so then we're probably pretty close to the property line. Oh boy, were we way off. That's 12 feet, guys. 12 feet. So we got to take that fence out. And what we're going to do is we're going to be adding columns down this side of the fence line, probably to about right where the chain link down there starts. So about halfway. Property's 2 acres, so it's about 500 some odd feet all the way down to the end there, from the corner behind me all the way down there. We're going to put columns there, probably about every, on this side of the property, and on the other side of the property over there, we're going to do about 25 feet. Now up front here, a little different story, because the driveway, you know, I've got to kind of center things off the driveway here. Either that, or I got to pick up the driveway and move it over. And honestly, I don't have the time, budget, or patience for something like that. But so what we'll do is we'll just we'll center the columns off the property, off the driveway. We'll move them back and get them faced correctly along the property line there. You can see those stakes. Sorry for the shakiness, it's a little chilly out this morning. And then we're going to do kind of a decorative feature here, where we'll bring the columns out, you know, and kind of do a radius there so that we can have the flower beds right there. As you can see, I gotta space these columns out a little differently here, because I have to center them off the driveway, and they're not going to be quite centered either, right? Because we're trying to make this look a little more visually appealing, and to do that doesn't necessarily mean I can center that. If I center that, it's going to look maybe odd as you drive in. So the way I actually have to do it is I have to kind of get the aesthetic right as you drive or approach the driveway from the street here. So it doesn't look like there's a bunch of stacked columns as you drive in, where, you know, it's got a little bit of a spacing around it, so it looks, you know, visually appropriate. So we'll get them faced to the street and to the property line the way they're supposed to be, and we'll get them centered, you know, as much as I can. Obviously they're not going to sit like that, they're not level, but we'll dig footings down here, get those going. Definitely a DIY project. Notice they're just dry stacked here. This is just so we can get kind of a visual on how this is going to go. I'm going to do a separate video on all of that, so, and hopefully it won't be as shaky as what I'm showing you right now. So as we kind of walk down the fence here, I was mentioning the spacing of the columns here. They're going to be a little different out front here, just to give you a more, you know, equal spacing in the front of the property. They won't be as wide as the sides. The sides are going to be about 20-25 feet. These are going to be about 19 apart, and that'll give pretty equal spacing across. There's going to be a little bit of wood waste here, because the plan is we're not going to do wrought iron in between the columns. We're just going to do wood fencing between them. So, you know, the fencing, these rails come about 8 foot. You can get them 10 foot. So if I do the sides down here, I might be able to pull them in at 20 feet, eliminate some of the waste. But up here, I'm going to have a little bit of waste. So I'll figure out what to do with those, but maybe convert them to stakes or something. This tree is going to be a little bit of an issue for us here, because obviously I need to put a column down here on the end to kind of tie it all in. So I got to figure that out. Might be a foot or two off there, but anyway. Now going down this side of the property line right here, what you don't see are the massive amount of trees and roots and crap I've pulled out. This took me 2 seasons to get through all this. With my little John Deere there, a backhoe, and a tiller. So I just completed this. stakes are the property lines, and so we'll do columns down here too. And I'll shoot levels and lines and get columns going down here. Nice straight fence. The reason for the tilling here is not so much to get the property flat as it was to break up all the roots that are down on the ground. We had a very invasive type of tree growing along this fence line right here, where those roots just grow everywhere. I mean, they just spider. They go probably 30 feet into this, into my lawn, going underground. So I had to break those up really good so, you know, we don't get any coming back. You know, there's one right there. So just to give you an example, I mean, that root's probably like what, like 2.5 feet, 3 feet, 2.5 feet. The trees were about where those stakes are. So from that stake over to there, that's probably about 5 feet, right? So that root, if I pull it, it's probably going to go another 5 feet that way. That's about 15 feet, you know, just for probably that root. Pretty crazy. So anyways, we had to get those invasive tree species out, primarily because the root systems on there just were growing under the foundation of the crawl space. So I had to get rid of it for that reason. Plus, if I let them go, you know, they just take over everything. They shoot up new little roots, you know, and they pop up out of the ground, and then the next thing you know, you got that tree growing in the middle of your lawn, you know. So you're constantly having to cut them back, get rid of them. Just a terrible, terrible tree. And to be honest with you, it didn't even provide that much privacy.